He left home chasing a dream, a ticket, a promise, a chance to build something better. But by the time the dust settled, he was no longer an athlete, he was a soldier. And the finish line he once ran toward was now the edge of a battlefield. His name is Evans, a 36-year-old Kenyan who says he went to Russia looking for work, only to find himself fighting in a war he didn't believe in. When the video of his surrender appeared online in September 2025, it shocked the world. A man from the Rift Valley, standing in a Ukrainian forest, raising his hands as he says, "I'm Kenyan, don't shoot." How does something like that happen? How does a runner become a captive in a foreign war? It started with hope. The kind of hope that fills inboxes and WhatsApp messages across Africa every single day. Work available, short-term contract, training opportunity abroad. Evans took that chance. He boarded a flight to Russia on a tourist visa. He didn't speak the language. He didn't have connections. He only had faith that people meant what they said. When he landed, he was told to sign some papers. Routine, they said, just procedure. He couldn't read them. They were in Russian. He signed anyway. Hours later, his passport and phone were gone. He was told to wait. Then a bus came. The next 10 days blurred together. Uniforms, drills, shouts, exhaustion. 10 days that turned a civilian into something else entirely. He had joined the Russian military without realizing it. Evans says there was no escape. Some of the men beside him were Russians. Others were from Tajikistan, Belarus, even Africa, places he'd only seen on a map. They all had the same look in their eyes, confusion mixed with fear. And then they were sent east, to the Ukrainian border, to the front lines of a war that wasn't theirs. Weeks later, near a small town called Vovchansk, everything fell apart. Shells fell, air cracked. Evans ran. He hid in the forest until the gunfire stopped. And when he heard soldiers approaching, he made his choice. He stepped out of the trees, raised his hands, and said the words that might save his life. "I'm Kenyan, don't shoot." The video that followed went viral. You could see the terror. You could hear the disbelief in his voice. He wasn't a spy. He wasn't an invader. He was a man who wanted a job. For a moment, the war had a face, and it looked like his. Kenya's government quickly announced an investigation. Officials promised to find out how a citizen ended up in another nation's war. They weren't alone. Reports surfaced across Africa, men lured to Russia by the promise of work or education, only to be forced or coerced into fighting. Some survived, some didn't, and for most, their families still have no answers. Evans' story reveals something uncomfortable about the modern world, that in some places, desperation is a resource. And when hope is in short supply, recruiters will turn it into currency. For decades, the African diaspora has served on every front, from the trenches of World War I to the beaches of Normandy, to the deserts of Iraq, to the peacekeeping bases of Mali. They fought under flags that weren't their own, often for countries that didn't see their full humanity. That legacy is both pride and warning, because the same discipline that makes a soldier great makes him vulnerable when opportunity looks like salvation. Evans thought he was signing for a better life. Instead, he signed away his freedom. In the quiet after his surrender, journalists began connecting the dots. Recruiters across Africa were posting ads, factory work, construction, logistics. Once the contracts were signed, those men disappeared into barracks, their passports confiscated, their names changed to ranks, their lives reduced to silence. Evans's voice broke that silence. He turned deception into evidence. His surrender video became a mirror held up to the world. Because behind the politics and propaganda, there are human stories. Stories about how far people will go just to provide, how easy it is for systems to exploit the poor, and how one man's survival can expose an entire network built on lies. He's not the first to fall into a war this way, and he won't be the last. But his story forces a question. When does ambition become danger? And how do we protect our people when the dream of a better life is used against them? For Evans, the journey home, if it happens, will take time. Diplomatic channels move slowly, wars move faster, and somewhere between those two speeds, lives are lost. Maybe that's the hardest truth of all, that a man who once ran for medals now runs for mercy, that a son, a brother, a friend is reduced to a single moment caught on video. But there's something else in that clip too, something quiet, defiant, human. He didn't beg, he didn't lie, he simply said, "I'm Kenyan." It was an act of faith, a reminder that even in war, identity matters. If there's anything the diaspora has taught the world, it's that resilience doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it's a voice shaking in fear, but refusing to vanish. Sometimes it's a man who, even stripped of everything, still claims where he's from. Evans's story is more than tragedy. It's a map. It shows us where global inequality and exploitation intersect. It shows us what happens when paperwork becomes a weapon. And it shows us why storytelling, honest, raw, unfiltered, is an act of protection. Because when we tell these stories, we take back power. We turn silence into witness, and we remind the world that Black lives don't just matter when they're convenient. They matter everywhere, in peace and in war. Did you know that investigators have already traced similar cases in over a dozen countries? Young men and women promised jobs abroad, rerouted to military zones, often without any paper trail. They vanished quietly, their families left behind with questions and fear. Evans just happened to be the one we saw. That's why this story can't fade away. Because as long as someone can lose their freedom with a signature, the diaspora's fight isn't over. Maybe Evans will return home. Maybe he won't. But his voice, the sound of it trembling between courage and confusion, will echo for years. Because in that voice is a warning, a prayer, and a promise all at once. Don't stop running. But make sure you know where the track leads. I would like to know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.